Industries that are hot, sectors set to outperform the market. That's what's here in Zacks Industry Rank Analysis. Which industry is set to outperform this week? Let's check in with Charles Roplat, our senior market analyst at Zacks.com. I'm sure he'll know the answer to that question because he tipped me off before he sat down here. His radar focuses this week on tech stocks, particularly tech stocks affecting consumer goods, correct?
Well, it's not just consumer goods, it also affects corporate spending, but we are seeing stronger demand for technology products. Really, hardware is the proper term for it.
Okay.
Obviously, technology products is a little bit easier for people to understand. But we've seen a couple hard drive makers actually raise revenues. We've seen a couple smartphone makers come out and actually with results, fiscal quarter results that were better than expected.
Right.
And so when you kind of look at the bigger picture, it's pretty obvious that spending on technology is starting to rebound or at least be better than people anticipated. And that bodes well as we head into the second half. If you assume that we will see an improvement in the economy throughout the second half, then technology itself should benefit not only from improved spending, but by and large, anything that can help productivity will probably be looked on favorably by CFOs who are looking to do whatever they can to control costs and get the most that they can out of the now reduced workforce.
So I'm going to ask the $64,000 question right off the bat. Is it then, from your vantage point, technology that you think is going to pull us out and lead the recovery?
I don't think it'll pull us out, but I do think coming out of the recovery, it's going to be one of the sectors that's going to do extremely well. And certainly when you look at the performance of the NASDAQ, it is the best performing large cap index. It's doing better than the S&P. It's doing better than the Dow. And certainly that's because technology stocks have done well. But I do think you'll actually see spending on it, particularly in the areas that will help. I think you'll continue to see spending on smartphones. A lot of companies use them. They help make employees more productive, especially if they can check email outside the office.
Right.
When you look at storage devices, we only have more and more data coming out there. If you look at semiconductors, which I've talked about before, we're seeing signs that that industry is turning around. But I think you could also probably look at some software companies itself too. If there's an improvement to software that can help productivity or streamline operations, that will get some spending as well. And as we talk about all this, it's worth noting that in the second half of the year, we will have Windows 7 coming out there, supposedly better than Microsoft Vista. A lot of people did not upgrade to Vista, but you are looking at a lot of older PCs that are probably getting near the end of their useful life. And so that itself could also provide a boom for Microsoft, or at least a boost for Microsoft. And obviously, anytime you have a new PC being sold, that means there's going to be a new hard drive installed. That's good for companies like Seagate.
So, because what you're describing here is closely related to products that consumers buy, as you mentioned near the top of this piece, is it maybe technology working in tandem with retail that's going to kind of combine forces here?
Yeah, I don't think so much technology would combine with retail. Certainly the retailers would benefit, but there's also a lot of technology you can actually buy directly from the manufacturer. But I think on here, what's really going to drive technology is not even so much the consumer spending. Obviously, though, when you look at 1 million iPhones being sold in the opening weekend, there's definitely consumer demand.
Right.
We saw lines outside the stores for Sprint when the Pre came out. Those are still in short supplies at some Sprint stores.
Yep.
We'll see with BlackBerry. I believe they have a new model coming out this month with Sprint. But I think you also got to look at corporations, and I think that they are continuing to spend on technology. Even though a lot of CFOs and a lot of CTOs saying spending's been pulled back, we are seeing the numbers that, from all appearances, look like they're coming in better than expected. Particularly when you look across the board, it cannot just be consumer spending that's driving it. A lot of it's got to be coming from the corporate side, especially since the corporate side uses so much of technology. When you look at the data, when you look at the communications, even though you have a huge base of consumers, and by and large consumers do drive the U.S. economy, on the technology side, your biggest spenders actually are on the corporate side.
And so there's some pent-up demand there on the business side.
Yeah, I think there's some pent-up demand, and I think there's also some companies just really looking at how do we actually make ourselves more productive. And if you're a corporation and if you've been holding off buying that PC because you didn't want to deal with the hassles of Windows Vista, at a certain point you look at your PC and say, this is exceeded its useful life. My employee needs a bigger hard disk. It'd be better if I can actually have this employee out here check email or check appointments when he's out of the office, much to the chagrin of the employee who's a target of that. But I think when you look at all that combined, it does bode well. And it's worth noting we have seen we are seeing the early stages of a recovery in the semiconductor industry. So what I'm mentioning here with the hard drive manufacturers, or really with the hardware manufacturers in general, both hard drive and smartphones, you kind of put together a bigger puzzle, and you look at the mosaic and say, okay, things are looking better in technology sectors, certainly better than they did a couple months ago, and that's a good sign. And that's why I think technology stocks might continue to outperform and really kind of lead the market in terms of performance throughout the second half of the year.
And we always like it best when you show up here with good news. So keep it up, whatever you do. If you want to check out the text version of the industry rank analysis for this week, I suggest you go to Zacks.com's homepage, because what we didn't talk about here are the individual stocks in this particular group that Charles has his eye on, that he's got some good news to deliver on. Zacks.com's homepage is where this is all housed. You scroll down that homepage till you get to the headline under the Industry Rank Analysis banner, and it'll take you right to all of that information. With Charles Rotblatt, I'm Terry Ruffalo.